systems roadmap. MJ, what about DevOps wise?
DevOps wise, there's just so much. And I will say we're going to be talking about DevOps in a panel discussion on December 9th, I believe it is. Kyle will put up some details about that. So we could do hours and hours on DevOps, and we're not going to do that in the next 20 minutes or 16 minutes. I'll just say, think about now as you're planning for 2021, where do you want to go with your processes and your tools so that your teams are running more smoothly, and so that you've got control over what's happening, when it's happening, and who it's happening by. And what are the steps that you could take to get there? Don't try to solve the world at once. I think David used the expression, boil the ocean. I think of it as solving the world, but realize that DevOps, continuous integration, if that's your desired endpoint, realize that it's a journey, it's a spectrum, and you don't have to be at the very end of the path right away in 2021. Just think about where you are, where you want to be, and the different steps along the way to get there, and then plan for it. And planning for it means a few things. Certainly it means identifying tools, identifying systems, and trying to lay out a rough roadmap. It means budgeting. It means planning the dollars for these systems, for backup solutions and development environments and continuous integration and code management solutions. It means budgeting dollars for training your staff on all of these things. So you need to budget the dollars for all of that. And you also need to budget the time to train your staff, the time to transition from the way that they've been doing things to the way that they need to be doing things going forward. Yep. So as you're planning for the coming year, think about those things.
You know, one of the topics that could have fallen into 2020, and many of us are already thinking about our sales kickoffs. And it's funny, all these years, we're in our 15th year of having OpFocus, and all these years, you know, it's usually around now that we'll ask the question, you know, when is your sales kickoff? And maybe with coronavirus, a lot of us are hosting them virtually for the first time in a while, so it's taking on a different form. But what's interesting is how much that dictates. So if it's, you know, the third week of January, something like that, well, between now and then, we have this many weeks, we have to close out this year. We have a holiday period. There's only a set amount that we can get done prior to that sales kickoff. And a lot of times we'll work backwards from, okay, when is the kickoff? We obviously need to get through territory planning, account reassignments. We have to sort through that stuff and make sure that those updates are up to date. But are there other tools, whether they're productivity tools or other enhancements, changes to the sales methodology that we can fit in prior to that sales kickoff? That it's like a roadmap within a roadmap because of that, you know, shortened period of time with some holidays and an end of year close potentially right in the middle.
Absolutely. David, I know one of the topics under RevOps that is near and dear to the heart of somebody I know is on this call is forecasting and figuring out what's the plan for forecasting, what tools are available, and will those tools really meet your needs? Other kinds of RevOps things that we need to be thinking about as we're planning?
Absolutely. Even one micro topic is around the territory planning. And, you know, if your go-to-market approach is changing slightly, if you have new team members coming on board, for a variety of reasons, your territories might change. One technique that we've used over the years is to actually have a shadow set of fields that are not visible to the majority of users, where we can get to work sooner, where we might have the new year owner and we just start doing ownership assignments, and that allows us to do reporting and to try to level off the territories. So I think probably what a lot of people do is pull that stuff out into Excel and try to do territory leveling, territory planning external to the system. But within an enterprise Salesforce system, we can use field level security. We can have fields that are visible just to a subset of users. And that might include, you know, something like, you know, who's the owner in the new year? What's the expected revenue we might achieve out of that prospect or client in the new year? And then there might be other notes. And that may also give you a mechanism for having conversations with reps to talk to them about their new territory and just try to, you know, get them to buy into what that, you know, hitting whatever the new quota is for the new year. I found that really useful over the years to have that shadow set of fields. Then we can essentially back that up, swap out the account owner, and do a data load of that to reassign the accounts.
I like that technique, David, having hidden fields that regular users don't see while you're in the planning stage, and then you use that as a help when it's time to actually flip it over so that you're using the fields that you want to be using.
So going hand in hand with that could be updates to your lead assignment rules. I think sometimes those get overlooked, but whether you have a round robin, whether you have those new territory assignments, something that you can do in Salesforce is you can have multiple sets of rules, but you can only have one active. So there's nothing stopping you from creating a new set of rules that you're going to turn on January 1st and just have them in the system and ready to go.
David, you and I've been talking for a while. We've got a whopping 10 minutes left. Anything that you'd want to close with before we ask for questions?
I think the roadmap topic is a really important one. We talked earlier about updating your tech stack audit. I do think it's important to realign that roadmap because that determines budget, that determines sort of headcount needs, staffing needs for the coming year, and what you're going to, like, what mountains are you going to move, and there will be a set number of big rocks. So you might look to implement, you might look to merge a couple of tech stacks or implement a CPQ or implement a new BI tool, but whatever those big rocks are, and then figure out what else that you can dovetail in. What's the staffing need for that? I guess each one of us has different timeline with our budgeting. It does feel like the budgeting might have started a little earlier for a lot of us this year. But that doesn't mean it gets finished for some of us until into the new year.
Yeah, especially with the rebudgeting that a lot of us did probably in the springtime when COVID really hit. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So it might be a different cycle this year, but that planning is really key.
Yeah.
And having the roadmap to help guide where you're going to put your bucks, your money, is really important.